I know that you have been exposed to different cultures.
Yep.
You have worked in different countries.
Yep.
And you have lots of mentees as well from diverse backgrounds
Yep.
and different countries. Again, from an immigrant's point of view,
Yep.
there's a huge change when you
Yep.
move from one country to another. And specifically, if your original country has a different norm,
Yep.
and has a different practice,
Yep.
you go to Australia and you find yourself in a totally different environment. You talk to many people, young people or
Yep.
mid-career, when they change their location of practice. What are the first things do you think people should focus on rather than being shocked and sitting somewhere and just being removed from the society? What do you think they should
I think building relationships is key. And the good thing about Adelaide, say as an example, is that no matter where you're from, you're not the first person from where you're from to be in Adelaide, right? So I know, look at the Project Management Institute chapter, let's say there's more than one or two people from Iran right nowadays, right? And so when somebody comes in, I'll say, have you met such and such? And immediately then you've got almost like a template for adaptation. Someone's doing almost the exact same journey, and they can give you some good ideas. And they can also help you settle in with and translate your cultural norms into Australian cultural norms. So if you're from a certain country, I don't understand that culture. I can't tell you what the gap is between what you're used to, but someone that comes from your background who's been here for a while absolutely can do that, and very quickly. So I think a key to that is getting a network, but a starting point might be to go to your local Australian French society or the Irish club, in my case, whatever it might be, and find people that help you build that bridge very quickly. That's probably number one. Professionally, I think as well, if you find obviously an added bonus of if that person's in a similar career, that's even better. But find out what the networking opportunities are. Because in Adelaide, it is literally 2 degrees of separation from everybody. I rarely find someone, even vaguely sort of my field, that I don't know someone. If I look them up on LinkedIn, that we don't have connections. It's very unusual. It might only be 1 or 2, but they're still there. It might be 200. And there are people I've got through the connections in common with in Adelaide. It's like that, right? I think not being afraid to acknowledge that you need help as well, and not be, like I've had people come to me before and say, "Oh, I don't know anybody." And I say, "Okay, if I know someone I think is from with similar background, I'll say I'll put it into. Or do you want to go grab a cup of coffee and do some informal mentoring? Finding someone that is willing to mentor you, which I think, in my case, stage of my career, I think my journey was different, but it had initially that shock factor was not as severe when I came here. And now being able to pay back and say, in a generic sense, here's the things you should do. Here's the things you should try and do in your first 3, 6, 12 months when you're here. Get yourself grounded with a network. Okay, it might be 1 or 2 people, or it might be broader, and they will no doubt help you expand your network pretty quickly. But again, also be aware that it's important you expand beyond that same cultural background necessarily, because otherwise you reinforce your own stereotype of yourself, so to spep. And it's great to see. It's great to see when you go to the meetings and you hear 3 or 4 people from a country sticking their own, which is great. There's no problem, because you value what you have from your culture, and there's no reason to like if I find someone from Ireland, we'll start talking to them, and I can bear it. Once I hear the accent, boom, I'm off. We're talking. But then it's nothing that I hang on to. Like I don't really have a close Irish network at all here, and that was a conscious decision because I knew I had enough in common to not need that hand-holding to adapt myself. Whereas if you come from a different background, particularly, for example, if your family is also from that background as well and you bring them with you, there's no such, you try and find what schools to put my kids into, and you've done some homework before you get here, but there's nothing like the rude awakening when you land on the ground, right?
That's right.
And the weather is different, and just the norms of the way people interact could be quite different.
Which is going back to what you mentioned earlier, to be open and learn.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, there's always a reason for immigration, right?
Yeah.
And usually it's for a better life.
Of course.
So when you have a better life, it's like I always say, if you go to somebody else's home as a guest, there's no guideline, right? But you look at the host, and the host says to you, there's toilet is here, kitchen is there. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
The professional community is here, go there. Here, you have to be more proactive.
Yes.
And the same as what you say, if your background is from a certain country, find out who else are there, or again, in our network, we say, you're from this particular country, that friend of mine is from that country, let's mingle. Or the other thing is project manager, IT. This helps a lot.
Yes.
When you look at this, another community of yours, which have done this before. It's a good example.
And we have, probably a lot more in common than we think. So we've got the same professional background, mainly the same skill sets. Context of how they're applied might be a bit different. But one thing I think is, if you are dealing with people who come here or trying to adapt, The question is, to your point, is they're coming for a better life, but it's the what's in it for me question. And so that's one of my other key roles as a project manager is with every stakeholder, and I can translate this back to the immigration tale, is that what's in it for me? If I know what's driving you, is it just purely your career? Is it your family betterment? What is it? That will help you make some right decisions. So ask yourself that, but also ask kind of other people when you get to know them. Ask, well, why are you here? What do you need from me? I'm quite happy to be a sounding board and just be there for someone if I'm needed. Not impose myself upon them, of course. If you want to grab a coffee, fine. If you want, but find someone who you can trust in and who will have some similarity in their background to you.
Amazing.